You wake up early. Not because you want to. Because you have to. An alarm goes off. You check the time. There's just enough space to get ready, and no more. You move through the routine almost automatically. Shower. Clothes. Coffee. Commute. By the time you sit down at your desk, you've already spent a piece of your day. And then it begins. 8 hours. Sometimes more. You work. You respond. You solve problems. You attend meetings. You trade your time for money. At the end of the month, the money arrives. Predictable. Clean. Structured. It feels stable. Safe. Responsible. And yet, something doesn't add up. Because years pass. The routine stays the same. The income grows, a little. But wealth? That never really shows up. This is the part no one says out loud. A 9-to-5 job is designed to pay you. Not to make you rich. That sounds harsh. Almost unfair. Because the system tells you something else. Study hard. Get a good job. Work consistently. Save money. And eventually, you'll be financially secure. Maybe even wealthy. But there's a gap between earning well and actually building wealth. And that gap is where most people spend their entire lives. Let's slow this down. Because the problem isn't that jobs are bad. Jobs are useful. They give you income, structure, stability. They reduce uncertainty. But they also come with a hidden limitation. Your income is tied to your time. That sounds obvious. Almost too simple. But think about what that really means. There are only 24 hours in a day. You sleep for 7 or 8. You work for 8, maybe 9. What's left? A few hours of energy. Not even time, energy. So your ability to earn is capped. Not by talent. Not by ambition. But by time itself. Even if you get better at your job, you don't suddenly double your hours. You get a raise. A promotion. A slightly higher salary. And that feels like progress. Because it is. Just not the kind that scales. Let's make this uncomfortable for a moment. Imagine two people. Same intelligence. Same discipline. Same starting point. One works a 9-to-5 job for 20 years. The other spends that same time building something, outside of direct time for money exchange. A system. A business. An asset. At the beginning, they look identical. Same lifestyle. Same income level. Maybe the second person even looks worse off. More risk. Less stability. But time passes. And something subtle starts to happen. The first person's income grows linearly. A raise here. A promotion there. Step by step. The second person's income behaves differently. Slow at first. Almost invisible. Then, uneven. Then, suddenly, it accelerates. Because one is trading time. The other is building leverage. And leverage changes everything. Let's talk about that word. Because it's the part most people never fully understand. Leverage means you're no longer relying only on your own effort. You're using something else to multiply it. It could be capital. Money working for you. It could be systems. Processes that run without your constant input. It could be people. Teams that extend your output beyond your own capacity. Or technology. Software that scales what you create. A job gives you none of that. It gives you income. But not leverage. And without leverage, growth is slow. Predictable. Limited. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because the system doesn't feel limiting at first. In fact, it feels comfortable. You know what you'll earn. You know when you'll earn it. You can plan your life around it. That predictability is powerful. But it also creates something else. Dependency. Your lifestyle begins to depend on your salary. Your expenses adjust to your income. Your decisions revolve around stability. And slowly, without realizing it, your risk tolerance drops. You stop experimenting. You avoid uncertainty. You protect what you have. Which makes sense. But it also keeps you in the same structure. Because stepping outside that structure becomes harder. Not impossible. But uncomfortable. Now layer in time. Because time is the real force here. When you're young, a job feels like a starting point. You think, I'll do this for now and figure things out later. But later comes faster than you expect. Bills increase. Responsibilities grow. Expectations rise. And suddenly, you don't have the same flexibility you once did. Now the job isn't just income. It's security. And walking away from security feels dangerous. So you stay. Even if you feel stuck. Now let's talk about the math no one likes to run. Say you earn a decent salary. It grows over time. You save a portion. You invest a little. On paper, it looks solid. But then you factor in life. Rent or a mortgage. Food. Transport. Healthcare. Family. Unexpected costs. Your savings rate shrinks. And even if you're disciplined, there's only so much you can set aside. Which means your wealth-building engine is limited. Now compare that to a system where income is not directly tied to time. Where one decision can produce returns for years. Where effort is front-loaded, but rewards are ongoing. That's the difference. Not effort. Structure. And structure determines outcome. This is why two people earning similar salaries can end up in completely different financial positions. Not because one worked harder, but because one stayed within the limits of time and the other stepped outside of it. Now here's where things get misunderstood. This doesn't mean jobs are useless. They're often necessary. They provide the foundation. But the mistake is treating them as the destination. Because a job is a linear system. You input time. You get output money. Consistently. But wealth is not built linearly. It's built through compounding. Through leverage. Through systems that operate beyond your direct involvement. And that requires a different approach. Not just working harder, but working differently. Now let's address something people don't like hearing. Freedom and stability often move in opposite directions. A job maximizes stability. But it limits freedom. Not completely. But structurally. Because your time is allocated. Your income is predefined. Your upside is capped. Even if you perform exceptionally, the system has boundaries. Raises have limits. Promotions have competition. Opportunities have timing. And none of those are fully under your control. Which means your financial trajectory is partly decided by the system you're in. Not just your effort within it. Now zoom out. Look at how most people live. They earn. They spend. They save what's left. And they repeat. For decades. It's a cycle. A stable one. But not a scalable one. Because your savings are always a fraction of your income. And your income is limited by time. So even with discipline, growth is slow. And slow growth feels safe. But it also delays outcomes. Years turn into decades. And by the time the numbers become meaningful, so does time. Now contrast that with a different path. One where you still have a job. But you don't rely on it completely. You use it as a base. And then you build something alongside it. Not overnight. Not perfectly. But consistently. An asset. A system. A source of income that isn't directly tied to your hours. At first, nothing happens. The progress is invisible. The effort feels unrewarded. Which is why most people stop, but if it continues, the structure changes. Your income sources diversify. Your dependence reduces. Your options expand. And over time, the balance shifts. Not dramatically, but meaningfully. Until one day, your time is no longer fully sold. And that's when things start to feel different. Not easier, but more flexible. Now here's the irony. Most people are capable of building something outside their job. But they don't. Not because they lack skill, but because the system they're in absorbs their time and attention. By the time the workday ends, what's left is limited. Energy is low. Focus is scattered. So the idea of building something else feels overwhelming. And so it gets postponed. Again and again. Until it disappears. This is how the system sustains itself. Not by force, but by design. Now let's bring this back to the core idea. The problem isn't that a 9-to-5 job pays too little. It's that it pays in a way that doesn't scale. And scaling is where wealth is created. So the real question isn't, is a job good or bad? It's, what is this job leading to? Is it building something beyond itself? Or is it just sustaining itself? Because over time, that difference becomes everything. You can spend years optimizing your salary, negotiating raises, climbing the ladder, and still feel like you're in the same place. Just at a higher level. More income. More expenses. Same structure. Or you can slowly shift the structure itself. Even if the progress is slower in the beginning. Because once the structure changes, the outcome follows. Not immediately, but inevitably. So when people say you can't get rich with a 9-to-5 job, what they really mean is this. You can earn. You can live well. You can be comfortable. But unless something changes, your income will always depend on you. And anything that depends entirely on you has a limit. The question is, what happens when you reach it? And more importantly, how long do you stay there before you realize it was always there?